Hi, my name's Jana, and I'm an admissions rep with Kansas State University Online. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight to learn more about our academic advising programs. I'm joined by Dr. Christy Kraft and Pam McGlynn. They're going to spend roughly the next 30 minutes giving a presentation about this program, and then we'll spend the last few minutes answering your questions. Throughout the presentation, we will be using the chat feature and answering questions as they are being asked. Some of your questions may be saved until the end to answer. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Christy Kraft.
I'm trying to build the excitement with the countdown so everyone can sit on the edge of their seat and wait, and we'll get started here. Okay, so yes, thank you for joining us tonight. I will give a brief presentation about our academic advising programs. We will have time. Usually we have plenty of time for questions. I encourage you to write questions in the chat along the way. Pam McGlynn has done and will continue to do a great job of trying to respond to some of those along the way as I go through. So the academic advising graduate programs here at Kansas State University are housed in the College of Education. And it's part of a department. Our department is called the Department of Special Education, Counseling, and Student Affairs. And academic advising happens to be our largest program areas in the department. So incidentally, we're considering new department names to make sure that academic advising is reflected in the department name. So just a brief history of the programs. The graduate certificate in academic advising was our first program that we developed and started offering that in 2003. And then just 5 years later, we realized the desire and need for a master's program in academic advising. So we launched that program in 2008. Both of those programs were highly successful and continue to be. Draw a lot of students, a lot of interest. They're online, of course. That's why you're with us here in this webinar. And so we have a lot of students who are interested in pursuing those opportunities online. So after our master's degree, we launched it in 2008 and saw the great success. We started hearing from individuals who have master's degrees in academic advising, and they were asking us, when are you going to offer a doctoral program in academic advising? So we heard that, and we heard that, and we heard that. And just recently, we launched our doctoral program, PhD in leadership and academic advising. Actually, the first cohort started right as COVID started. And so I'm going to talk about each of these programs a little bit this evening. First, a beautiful photo of Anderson Hall here at Manhattan campus, the Manhattan campus. So at some point, if you hopefully you can make a trip out to K-State and see that. Let's talk about the graduate certificate first. Very simply, the graduate certificate can be earned after completing the 5 courses that are listed on the screen. And those courses can be taken in any order, though we frequently encourage students to start with the EDCEP 835 Foundations of Academic Advising course. It just seems like a great course to start off with, but it's not a mandatory that one does. These courses, all but one of these are offered every semester, fall, summer, spring, so easy to get into them. And one of them is offered at 2 semesters. And so we're not in a situation where students have a hard time getting into these courses. Most students take 1 to 2 classes a semester. Sometimes people will take 3 a semester. We usually discourage taking 4 or 5 in a semester, but you can see that you could finish this certificate relatively quickly. And there are no culminating or final projects. It's simply complete the 5 courses and earn the graduate certificate. We also have, like I said, the master's degree in academic advising. So in the master's degree, the 15 credit hours, the 5 classes that I just mentioned for the certificate are embedded in the master's degree. And so sometimes students earn the certificate and decide they want to go on for a master's degree, and they can just complete the other 15 hours. You can see some of the additional courses on the screen. Again, just like with the certificate, there's no required order with 2 exceptions. One is, and again, this isn't required, but we again encourage students to start with the Foundations of Academic Advising course as their first course. The other piece to note is that there is 1 elective. So students in this program can choose from one of the 3 courses that you see at the bottom of the screen. And if they choose the assessment of academic advising course, they must have completed the research methods course above before they take that. So that's really the only required sequence is to make sure that a student would take the research methods class before the assessment class. But other than that, they can be taken in any order. One thing that's different about this program compared to the graduate certificate program is that there is a final project with this program. And the final project serves as just the culminating experience, provides the students with the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge. There are 3 options for the final project, and one of them is to respond to case studies, drawing on the information that you've learned in the program. Another one is to develop a comprehensive plan for academic advising, again, drawing on the information from the program. And then the third option I kind of like to call the choose your own adventure option. And that is an option where if you have a recommendation for the faculty of a way that you can demonstrate your learning and your knowledge from the program in a culminating project, we're open to hearing your ideas for how to do that. And that culminating project is typically completed the last semester of coursework. We students end up doing these final projects every semester, but it would be planned to be in the last semester of the coursework. In terms of admissions, we look for a bachelor's degree with a 3.0 minimum GPA the last 2 years, or approximately the last 60 credit hours. We do accept applications year round. So there are some suggested dates usually for submitting applications. But we do accept them year round. I will tell you, if we were to receive an application just a couple of days before our semester started, we likely wouldn't have the chance to review that in time. And so I usually encourage prospective students to make sure that their applications are in at least a month in advance of the semester starting that they're interested in starting. So just know that there's a limit to the rolling basis here. We can still only get to them so quickly. And so I certainly encourage you to get those in plenty of time to get them reviewed. You can see we have 3. So we have a fall semester, a spring semester, and a summer semester. Fall semester runs from late August to mid-December. Spring semester, late January to mid-May. And then summer session courses are a little different. Some of them are June, July courses. We have a couple that have been 6-week courses. And some that are 4-week courses in the past. And so it could be any number of kind of structures for those summer classes. In terms of your application packet itself, in addition to the required GPA, we will be asking for a professional resume or CV. And so if you're thinking about applying, you can start working on it now. If you don't have it updated, that's something that I've been told for years, that keep it updated. It's a good practice to keep it updated. A 1 to 2 page statement of goals and professional experience is we want to read about the things that are the items that are bullet pointed on this screen. We want to know about your career and professional goals and aspirations. We want to know about how this program aligns with those. And you can see some of the other bullet points here. I think what's important, a couple things are important here that I want to just note. One is that we're wanting to make sure that you're not only qualified for the program and that you'd be successful, but that it truly does fit with what you're wanting to do. The last thing you'd want to do would be to spend time and money and earn a degree that doesn't really help you with your career pursuits. And so part of this is to make sure this is a good fit for you. I'll say the other piece to this is we really look at writing style as part of this. So we're looking not only at what you're writing in this statement of goals and professional experiences, but we're looking at how you're writing it. And so I usually encourage prospective students to really put forth some good effort on this statement and put forth your best writing effort in that application process. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the last degree that we'll discuss, the third one, and then we can see what kind of questions are coming in and need to be answered. But this is our doctoral degree in leadership and academic advising. And this program prepares professionals for leadership roles, as the name implies, in academic advising. So it might be academic advising administration, those types of roles. What we're seeing in our first 2 cohorts so far is that we have students in our doctoral program who, most of whom are currently advisors, full-time academic advisors, and who are wanting to seek leadership roles. We've had a couple in our first cohorts that are not currently academic advisors, but have had similar kinds of career experiences and are wanting to move forward in a leadership role. The doctoral degree requires a minimum of 90 hours post-baccalaureate. One thing that's important to share here is that you'll have a master's degree when you start this program, and we count, no matter how many credit hours your master's degree was, as long as it was at least 30, we just take 30 credit hours and transfer it toward these 90. So that would leave you with 60. So when people ask me, Christy, how many of my, how does my master's degree apply toward this doctorate? That's the answer. You get 30 credit hours just transferred over. We don't look at course to course kind of correspondences. We just say, okay, master's degree counts for 30. Now you need 60 more. And we have the curriculum for that. The PhD program is a sub-plan under a doctoral, what the Board of Regents knows our degree as counseling and student development. And so there actually are a few shared courses in the program with our student affairs program as well, which I think has been a real benefit to our student affairs students and to our academic advising students who are in some of the same classes moving forward, some of the same higher education classes. Some key aspects of the doctoral program that I want to highlight is that, first of all, it's a cohort model. You've heard me mention cohort a couple of times. What that means is a group of students a group gets admitted at the same time, and then they travel through the program at the same time. The expectation is that they take 2 courses a semester and travel through at the same time, taking the same courses at the same time. The courses are offered through K-State Online. We use Canvas. We use Zoom sessions for occasional synchronous sessions. Let me just note that more often than not, our courses are asynchronous, but there are some of the courses that have occasional synchronous sessions where everyone logs on at the same time. And those courses that require some synchronous sessions will have the information, dates, and times set up well in advance for planning purposes. But more often than not, the courses in our program have optional synchronous sessions and are predominantly asynchronous. And so I think that's important for everyone to know who might be interested in this, that there's not going to be a lot of times when everyone has to be on at the same time for a class. We do, however, have monthly cohort meetings in this program, and each cohort will pick a night of the month and say, okay, every month on this particular night, we're going to meet together as a cohort. For instance, our first cohort meets the first Tuesday evening of every month. Our second cohort meets the second Wednesday evening of every month. And so there will be one required synchronous Zoom session for the cohort for professional development reasons and programmatic information sharing throughout the process. But if, as a cohort, the students will move through the coursework, taking 2 classes at a time for 7 consecutive semesters. That's summer, fall, and spring. The program starts in the summer. And so 7 semesters of coursework. And then after that is what we call preliminary exams. Some other programs call them comps or comprehensive exams. And in this program, those exams are completed the semester immediately following coursework being completed. And they're essentially individualized questions for students in the program based on their research interests. And we try to accomplish a couple of things. We tried to make sure that we're helping the student get set up for their dissertation work. And so we're asking some questions about their research interest, but we're also asking some questions that helps us understand, did they really gain the knowledge that we wanted them to gain in our program? So coursework, preliminary exams, then dissertation at the very end, which is a research project, and a project about academic advising in some way, shape, or form. That becomes a lot of fun to work on and to think about. So we have a lot of program activities and professional development opportunities. I mentioned the monthly cohort meetings are one. We also have our programs have been designed, quite frankly, and led in partnership with NACADA, the Global Association for Academic Advising, which is housed here at Kansas State University, just right down the street from where we are. And so we actually have several of the NACADA staff who teach in our program, who serve on students' committees. And this holds true for the master's and the certificate. Some of those classes and those programs are taught by some NACADA staff, people who are experts in academic advising. We also provide collaborative opportunities to collaborate with faculty. on research or presentations at conferences. So it's our goal to not only help our doctoral students earn their doctoral degree, but to develop them professionally in other ways at the same time. So if you're interested in the doctoral program, how do you get started? Well, we will soon be having some updated information on the website about the next round of applications, which will be due December 1st. And I know in some ways that sounds like so far down the road because it's just March, but it comes quickly. So we'll be getting some information up online pretty soon and having some additional information sessions about that. And then the next cohort will start in the summer of 2024, our third cohort. We start one new cohort every other summer. So if you're thinking about this, you've got some time to think about kind of what this process looks like. Short video, and then we'll see about having some questions here. This video is Christy Lax Walker. She was a master's student of ours and she had recently completed the program when she recorded this video, and she's now one of the students in our second doctoral cohort. So I'm going to let you hear a little bit from her about her experiences.
For students that are wondering, what's their next step? For me, it took a lot of years to determine that. And I finally figured out, I'm researching careers and I'm doing this, I'm looking into development for students. And this was the answer to what it was. Every time I wanted to know something, I sent an email. And really that was really one of the driving forces as to why I decided to attend, because it was just such, it was really personal and they really cared. I'm the type of person that likes to be in the class with the professor up front. And I actually really feel like I had that experience with the global campus. I know several of my professors, and I feel the real connection with them. So the global experience for me has been really almost better than in the classroom because there was so much contact. I feel that it's really been, I've been a part of the family. I want to get as much academic advising experience as possible. I really enjoy student development, and that was a big part of our program. So lots of our classes really focus on theory and development. And for me, that was important because it lets you get to the heart of the student. One of the things that I was able to do that I really like is attend the NACADA conference. So I met several of my professors there. Really made connections there. On campus, because I was in the program, I was also able to create and work with one of our provosts to actually do an assistantship in academic advising. Halfway through the program, my father passed away, and I needed some time, and he gave me the time that I needed. For some, they might have stopped and taken a break. And because of their care, because he really just allowed me what I needed. And so I didn't stop. I kept going and I finished. And so for me, that said a lot. It said a lot about who they are as just a family, as Kansas State, and how much they care about their students. There can be challenging times. And so just the fact that they made sure that I had everything I needed all the time. I think because of that and their partnership, even with NACADA, really makes it something that students love. And so just this distance education at a, just a world-renowned university for me, highly respected. You can't get much better at all.
So I probably should have noted when she mentioned he a couple of times, she was referring to her academic advisor in the program. We call those individuals major professors here, and he had supported her greatly through that. So yeah, I'm going to look at the chat now. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I think I'll and see where we are with that, and maybe Pam can help. I guess I can't see the chat. Let's see if I can find it. Pam, are there any questions in the chat? Because I'm for some reason not able to see. Are there any unanswered questions in the chat?
The only question I wasn't able to answer was, I believe it's Anna has a question whether she can apply. She has a master's in Spanish, and she wants to know if she got another master's, if she would be able to apply 60 credits to the PhD, which I do not think is true. I don't think you can do that.
That's correct. Unfortunately, the graduate school would not allow that. What the graduate school potentially would allow, and what they have allowed before, is 30 credit hours from a master's degree, and then an additional 10 outside of that. And so it's possible that 40 could apply to that, but can't guarantee that since it's embedded in another master's degree. But even then, So for whoever asked that question, please email me if you want more detailed conversation about that, and we can, my email, I already passed it, ccraft@ksu.com, but send me an email and I'm happy to talk individually, but I'm quite certain it's 30 hours and then maybe an additional 10 above that. Are there any other questions? And again, I apologize, I'm for whatever reason can't see the chat. I'm afraid to click on something else for fear that I'll move us to a place where we don't want to be on the presentation. Pam, are you seeing anything else?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Amanda, when did she? Oh, okay. Amanda wanted to know if there's any stats on how many grad certificate recipients have been able to find an academic advisor job right away.
Right away. I don't have those stats off the top of my head. I don't know. I would guess that the Career Center would keep those. Our department doesn't keep those. And I think an answer to that also would be that has changed a little bit over time, in terms of, COVID had an impact on some of the job opportunities and things like that. So I can only speak anecdotally and not data driven at this point, and tell you that I'm not aware of many, if any, students who have felt like their certificate or their master's degree, or we haven't completed doctoral degree students yet, but I've not become aware of anyone who's had a hard time getting a position. I think there are a lot of positions out there. I think some colleges and universities are going to be okay with just the certificate and not a master's in academic advising. And typically those would be maybe smaller colleges and universities. Others that tend to be, that are larger colleges and universities are probably going to want to see the master's degree. So I think partly it's dependent upon size of the university in terms of what they might look for, certificate versus master's. But I would also say that when looking for positions, types of professional experiences that a person's had plays into that too. And so, even if someone's not been a professional advisor prior to earning a certificate or a master's, if they've had work in higher ed in some way, shape, or form, that's helpful too. So there's just so many factors that come into play that it's hard even just, if it's hard to even gather clear data on this leads to this, because there are a lot of other factors. But anecdotally, I'm not hearing students say, I'm having a hard time finding a position from either our certificate or our master's program. And another thing that's wonderful about our relationship with NACADA is that NACADA provides a wonderful network for our students professionally. And frequently it's those professional networks that lead to positions. I mean, you get to know someone at a NACADA conference, you work with them on a committee at a NACADA conference or for NACADA, and next thing you know, they know who you are. And when a job opportunity becomes available, they recognize your name when your application comes through. So part of it also professionally is making those networking and making those professional connections while you're working on your graduate degree. So if anyone decides to apply into this program, I would strongly suggest that you get involved with NACADA, as well as pursuing the coursework in the program and the requirements of the certificate of the degree.
So they have a question about the summer terms. It says, does that mean it's possible to do more classes in the summer? I'm not sure if they mean like more than what we recommend, the recommended 3.
Sure.
So I guess the answer would be no, because those classes are much shorter in duration. So we actually,
I think, and the scheduling, I mean, that most of our classes for the certificate and master's programs are going to be scheduled similarly. So here's an example. We might have 2 that you need that are both June, July courses. My advice to students is no more than 2 classes in a summer session, because they're it's 8 weeks instead of 16. So there's more information packed in a short period of time. And so I would say just the opposite would be the case. I'd say you'd probably take fewer classes in the summer than you probably would potentially fall or spring. And I certainly would advise not to take more than 2. If a student's finishing the master's program in the summer, I would advise only 1, because you'll be working on the final project. So just keep in mind, for a summer course, it's a shorter amount of time, but almost the same amount of material. And so it tends in many ways to be more intense.
okay. The other one, Nicole had a question about that the master's degree is not a cohort, and that's true, but she asked if there was a recommendation on starting in the summer or the fall. And my answer is it doesn't really make a difference, whenever works with their schedule.
I think you're absolutely right, Pam. It really truly does not make a difference. And I would tell you that regardless of whether you start fall, summer, spring, usually students who start within about the same year time frame, whether it's fall, spring, or summer, end up in some of the same classes over time. And they recognize names. And I can remember have for a number of years taught the online student development theory course for this program in the summers. And it's not uncommon during that first week when we're doing introductions on the discussion board for someone to say, oh, so-and-so, I'm glad you're in my class again. And so it's not a formal cohort, but I think you're going to get to know some people and recognize names. And I also will tell you that at graduation time, when students come to campus and see each other, there's a sense of camaraderie. And so not a formal cohort, but I would say that any student that starts within about the same year time frame as you, you're likely to have an opportunity to interact with more than once in more than one class. We also, let me add to that we offer a Zoom session at least every fall and spring for our currently enrolled students, master's and certificate students, as a chance to get to ask, talk to the faculty, ask questions about the program or the courses or the final project. And it's also geared toward connecting students with each other. And so those monthly Zoom opportunities have been real helpful for students who want to develop some connections with their peers and have a chance to see each other. We put all of our faces on the screen, not just, the faculty, and we have a chance to really converse. And so we really are striving to make sure that there's some sense of connectedness among our students, in spite of it being an online program. We don't want our students to feel like they're out alone with no sense of network.
There is a question about how big is the master's program, and then it says class-wise. So I think they mean how big is each. I imagine they mean each individual class. How many people are you in class with?
Okay, so typically, I would say somewhere around 25. Sometimes it gets to 30. And sometimes a little bit more than that, but I want to say a caveat here. If we get to the point where we're getting toward 30 or a little bit more, we either split the course into two sections totally, or we make sure that course is structured such that there are separate discussion groups throughout the course, so it feels like a smaller class. And so, for instance, my student development theory class, one year I had about 35 students in it. And we didn't split it into two completely different class sections, but instead I split it into 3 different discussion groups. So 10 to 12 students per group. And those students were in the same discussion groups with each other the whole 8 weeks. And so it felt like a class of 10 to 12 and not, even though I knew it was a class of 35. And so that's kind of how we address that. Some of them are smaller. We have some of the classes this semester that are 15, like the electives, not everyone takes those. So some of those are 15, 16, 17 students. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Another question is, this is very specific, so I'm not sure if you can answer it, but someone has a question about whether the master's program would be helpful for someone who has 20 years experience in higher ed and wants to get into a leadership position, only has a bachelor's degree. So would that help for someone to become a director of advising?
I would say absolutely. Now, I don't know, depending on the size of the school, would the master's let you immediately move into that leadership role? Maybe. A smaller school, you're more likely to be able to take a leadership role in academic advising with a master's degree. Larger universities might require a doctorate. But I will tell you this, and everybody, I think this will be helpful. We did some just looking closely and analyzing some of our more recent applications from students who are in our program, and wanted to see exactly kind of what their backgrounds were and why they were choosing our program. We have a lot of students in our program who are career changers, and they've been in one career for a number of years, and it's time they want to do something different. And so some who have never had an academic advising job, and they're ready to do something different. They're ready. I mean, we've had not long ago, I remember someone who was working full-time in engineering and had done nothing but engineering, and said, you know what? She wants to be an academic advisor. She wants to help. So there's a lot of career changers in our program.
Melissa asked if applicants to the PhD program, if they develop their dissertation ideas well during the 7 semesters of coursework, or do they have to have ideas during the application phase?
That's an excellent question. All these are excellent questions. We like to have some idea of what you might be interested in your application. That helps us make sure that it's a good fit for you, but it's not set in stone. And so it's not the kind of type of thing that, you get into the program and you decide that you want to do something different. And we go back and pull out your application and say, no, you said you wanted to do this. So there's room for change along the way. And some students do change quite a bit. We do try to encourage students to identify their general topic area as soon as they can in their program, because then there's opportunities to, oftentimes faculty will give some flexibility in the kinds of topics you write about for their classes. And if you can start writing about your area of interest related to some of the coursework you do, then you're just really building up toward the dissertation. So theoretically, and in practice, you actually don't have to have the dissertation topic ready until you're ready to propose your dissertation. But ideally, the sooner in the program you can finalize that, the better. And we spend a lot of time as a faculty just talking about, helping students with that, thinking through that. And I think somehow I might have missed talking about the summer sessions for that program. And we ask our cohorts to come to campus twice, 2 summers. We've changed this, and Pam might be wondering, oh, what's going on? We changed this, Pam, a little bit, but we're going to ask our cohorts to come to campus the first summer of the program and the 3rd summer of their program, and to have a virtual session the 2nd summer. And during those times, we spend a lot of time with dissertation idea development and such. So there'd be a lot of conversations happening about that along the way.
Okay. Sheena is asking for examples of what the homework assignments are like, if it's writing papers or tests.
I would say most of the assignments for the courses will be papers and or projects. It differs by course and by professor. The exception to that would likely be the research methods class. I think there might be some quizzes in that class, some online quizzes, and maybe the assessment course. I'm not sure, but I think that even that's still project. So mostly project-based, writing papers, those kinds of things. But for a lot of us, my summer class, a large portion of the grade for that class is the online discussions each week. I weight those very heavily because I expect students to come in having read the material, be ready to post comments that respond to the material and respond to other people's posts. And so for my class, for instance, I think those ongoing discussions that happen are just as weighty for me and just as important to me as some of the written papers, but very few exams compared to undergrad. Are there any other questions? This is good. These are really, really good questions. Pam, I don't know if you're on mute, so I don't know if there's just no other questions or if you are talking and you're muted.
I was talking and muted.
Okay.
So Tim wants to know about the application fee waiver for attending the
Okay, I think Jana will probably address that at the end, so we'll hold off on that until you.
Let me see there were some other real questions.
Okay.
Someone wants to know what the benefits of this program are versus a grad certificate in higher ed administration. Okay,
that's a really good question too. This is specific to academic advising. So when it comes time for academic advising positions to be posted, this demonstrates an expertise in the actual area of academic advising. A student affairs degree, a higher ed degree is more of a generalist degree. Those students can get jobs in academic advising, but the degree will not demonstrate expertise in academic. And I would add, again, the NACADA piece, the connection we have with NACADA in academic advising. I think that name alone has some influence when it comes to applying for positions. So I frequently get students, because we have a student affairs in higher ed program here too. So I regularly get students asking me about both. And my response is usually, if you know for sure academic advising is what you want to do, you might as well pursue an academic advising degree. If you think academic advising might be one of your interests in higher ed, but you have some other areas of interest in higher ed as well, that's where I would encourage you to look more at a generalist kind of higher ed or student affairs degree. Other questions?
I addressed it, but there was a question about whether, I think there was confusion about summer session and the requirement to be on campus, and that is only for PhD students.
Yes, and I'm sorry for the confusion. That's only
No,
for
I'm just saying that there was a question about that,
Yep.
so we just need to emphasize that.
only for
Certificate students and master students, summer sessions are online like all year round.
That's right. Certificate master students never have to come to campus. So that's really important. I'm glad that clarification was made. And I'm sorry if I was unclear. Of course, we'd love to see you. Let me just put it that way. It's not uncommon for some of our certificate and master students to take a little road trip out to Manhattan, Kansas and stop in and see us. And we love that. So.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. I think Jana is going to address the webinar fee waiver.
I think so. So, okay, well, I'll say thank you, and then I'll turn it over to, and thank you all for attending and for your excellent questions. And thank you, Pam, for answering them as well as you always do. And I'll turn it back over to Jana.
I want to thank Dr. Kraft and Pam for their presentation, and I want to thank everyone for joining us here tonight. If you are ready to apply, please visit our website at online.ksu.edu and select how to apply for detailed instructions. Everyone who is registered for this webinar will be receiving a recording via email as soon as it's available. Also, we wanted to let everyone know that we do have application fee waivers available for those who attended the webinar tonight and who are applying for the summer 2023 semester. You can reach us at online@ksu.edu when you are ready to apply, and we'll provide you with a code. Finally, if you have any additional questions that we didn't cover tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, and I hope you all have a great night.
Good night.